Good morning, everybody. We have it's going to be a fun day today. If my guest is able to join me, he may have spotty cell phone service, but we have Walter West from Texas joining us today. I thought we needed to have a little lighter type show, have some fun, find out about some things that are happening in Texas. And yeah, I just thought Walter would be a great guest to have today, but he is kind of I tried calling him right before the show and he didn't answer. So he may be in, like I said, some areas with some pot. Oh, here he comes. I was just talking about maybe you were in spotty cell service. I can't hear you. All right. Maybe he'll sign back in and we'll see if his audio will work. Anyway, he's always fun. He's got so much information about the craziness that's happening in Texas and just some things around the world. He always puts a smile on my face. So I was in the mood for a smile on my face this week. I can't believe how crazy things have gotten. Tomorrow, I'm going to have Ed Steele on, who's running for the Mesa School Board. And it was insane because I was just listening to the news before I came on here. And the Chicago Public Schools is asking for $50 billion. $50 billion. And they want to give raises to their teachers, I think, to up to about $175,000, $180,000 a year. That would be their salary. They want all their abortions to be paid for. They want any transitioning, transgender transitioning type cost or anything to do with that to be paid 100%. The list just went on and on and on and on. And I thought, this is insane. And then they were talking about like the income that the city of Chicago gets is like $54 billion, their budget. So the Chicago school system wants them to spend almost all of the budget for Chicago on the schools. And also like only 21% of the kids going into 8th grade can actually read. And the percent even goes down lower of those who can, who pass or excel at math. So their school scores are rotten. And I don't think that they have school choice there in Chicago, the ESA vouchers like we have here in Arizona. So I'm going to be, I want to talk to Ed because we've got some pretty progressive, weirdo school board members here in Mesa. We've got Rachel Walden, who's a Republican, a conservative, and she is the lone wolf on the Mesa school board right now. So as crazy as this may sound in Chicago, this could be coming soon to your community with outrageous school board requests for budget increases. The more you allow these weirdos and to get on the school board and run the system. Here in Arizona, half of the state's budget goes towards education. So, it's a huge part of states' budgets. And we've got to get this kind of thing under control because $50 billion for Chicago school system, give me a break. Anyway, I was just talking about my guest I'm going to have on tomorrow, but this is more important because you're on today. How are you?
Well, I'm doing pretty good. Sorry, you texted me the link when it's emailed. I don't get any disturbances. So anyway, no, we're enjoying the weather. We're enjoying got a little uptick in illegals. They're while we are 74% down on the illegal border crossings.
Wow.
We're starting to get the groups at a time that are trying to make an impact. And well, I think they're learning that the impact is they're just going to go back to swimming.
Right. Well, and I was reading this article the other day in the newspaper or online, and it was talking about this woman and this child, and the child was saying, "Mommy, I don't want to cross a river," and she was saying, and they were from Ecuador, but she was saying, we need to get over there because they give us everything. They give us everything."
Yep.
And this is what the Border Patrol agents and Texas National Guard, this is what they're hearing these people say. So, and it's true, with the New York City Council member who was talking to the group of African women who were there complaining because, and they had to have interpreters, that your food isn't good enough for us. And she said, "I don't know who told you that the road to America is paved in gold, but it's not. If you don't like it here, go back." This is what these people need to understand, because they've been told and they've been promised that the road to the United States is paved in gold.
Well, no, you're exactly right. When this thing first kicked off under Biden, we had the NGOs. They were doing the best they could when they were ramped up, because at that time there was no money, there was no federal dollars that was just flowing freely like to the Ukraine and Israel or the Israeli problem that's happening right now. So these groups were having to do like tortillas and beans and stuff like that, and people were literally, after starving, were being handed food and they were throwing it on the floor saying, "This is not good enough."
Yeah. Well, and on the flip side of that, in Massachusetts, I think it is, in Boston, they've given these non-compete type contracts to these food providers at these hotels. And like at this one hotel, they're paying them like $7.4 million, I think, for the year. Every meal costs $21.
Yep.
Per illegal. And breakfast can be bagel and a little container of cream cheese, $21, and that's what it's costing you and I.
Hey, wait! Don't forget the Starbucks coffee. They're at least splurging for the extra $3 for it.
Right. But they get spaghetti with hot dogs in it, and then this other bowl of unrecognizable. It looked like the marrow bones that I feed my dogs, cut in half in this liquid with I don't know what, but. And it's true what the person who was writing the article said. You could have a company come forward and say, we will give them nutritious, beautiful food for $15 a meal. And they would say no, because they've given the contract to somebody who they want to get enriched with this whole illegal immigration bullshit.
Well, the contracts come back on the people, signing the dotted line for them. So, it's one of those things. Hey, I'm going to give you $1 million, but you're going to come back and give me 100,000 back for my campaign or for my personal, or buy me a car or something.
Yeah,
that's how they're running this thing. And the American people are just too stupid. They're allowing it to happen. So,
well, there's no accountability in the billions and billions and billions of dollars that are being spent on this invasion. No accountability whatsoever, and we see it on a daily basis of no accountability in the federal government, for God's sakes. And now, I just heard that Fannie Willis, there's no accountability for her grants and things that she got, a 400 and something $million grant, and the facility was never built or opened or put together. It was all spent on swag. So, of course, this illegal immigration scam is going to run rampant, because who's going to take the time to do the accountability on all this, Walter?
Well, so, you're using a term, illegal immigration, and I really think that's a little too harsh, because immigration is never illegal. It's always a movement. I would wish that people would just call it an illegal invasion.
There you go.
Because illegal aliens are illegally here, and here's the worst part of it. They go through the parole process via the agents that are processing them, but they're not the ones repelling them, which is the first job that a Democrat federal court justice physically said, your first job, at least in Texas, is to make sure you're at the San Juan line. You're in the middle of the river and you're repelling them. And she asked the agent to clarify, where are your agents standing? Oh, they're standing behind the National Guard on dry land, 50 feet, 50 feet behind the National Guard, who's 20 feet in, past the wire that's 10 feet in. So the federal government has already failed by not being on the front line.
Right.
And I'm feeling, you know how I am. I'm feeling harsh tones towards the agents, but at the same time, they are obeying orders that are not that unlawful. But there again, it's one of those deals where I've often said to these agents, I said, look, do your job, get terminated, and sue for wrongful termination, and I'll be the first person to gloat and to be gleefully happy that you just got a $10 million. You'll never see that in your retirement. So the fact that you can get a $10 million wrongful termination suit time after time again until the federal government says, hey, look, you need to, you can't screw around with the money. You need to start securing things because, in the military, we're given an order. If it's an illegal order, we're not to follow it. We go to jail if we follow an illegal order. For some reason, once you get the politicians and my Dorcas involved, now all of a sudden it's okay to do. It's never been okay to do.
Right. Well, and don't the Border Patrol agents have a contract that they sign that spells out exactly what they're going to do? Or is it just strictly an oath that they take?
Well, no. So they probably have something with the union, but remember, they also go to school. They are taught what the laws are, protections law, the 8 USC, all that kind of stuff. Because we have Mike Banks. He's a former agent, and he is our border czar for the state of Texas. He physically knows. I mean, he can quote your line, chapter, and verse. Every law that's being violated. If we were to put the TV up on a group of agents out there, so this is a law he's violating right now. He'll go through it, 8 USC, blah blah blah, whatever, and bam, now you have that. So whether they raise their right hand or not, they have in which they raised their right hand, they took the oath. So there's that part. They are they are being what people need to realize is these agents that are on the line, it's when you show up for work today, you're going to get in your van or your truck or your whatever, and you are going to go to this processing center and make sure they're processing correctly, which means they're not on the border. So
Right.
when they're not on the border, they can't perform their job. They're doing as they're told. They're over here. They don't get a question, hey, is anyone on the border or not? and on top of that, if you'll notice, Operation Lone Star, the Border Patrol is actually participating in it to a certain extent. So the federal government is endorsing to a certain extent Operation Lone Star. They're just politicizing, what Governor Abbott is doing, and in the cases where he went up and spoke at a GOP event in New York City, and he flat out said it. He said, "Look," he said, "the Biden administration was busing illegals up here. Period. Now." You guys are upset that I start doing it. He says, well, the Biden administration was doing it. Y'all were blaming me. I wasn't doing it. He said, so if I'm going to get blamed for it, I might as well do it. And he literally, to this day, the state of Texas has sent less than 5% of what the Biden administration has sent in through the Texas border. So for Eric, whatever his name is, the former police captain up there, and remember, the mayor up there in New York City is a former cop.
Yeah.
So
Eric
that
Adams.
should tell you how bad the NYPD is right now. And listen, I was up there for 9/11. I lost two Port Authority police officer friends in the when the towers came down, whenever the planes crashed in there. My father was one of the investigators during the bombing in 1993. So, which is what 30 years ago. So. People forget that the World Trade Center was, there was a bombing that happened first. So, New York's I've got an affinity for New York. It was a place I flew out of when I had to go to the Dominican Republic. I'd have to go to, fly into LaGuardia and fly out of JFK. So, I've got an affinity for those folks up there. But bottom line is all of our good Hollywood movies are New York City corruption. And most of that is based on true stories. Matter of fact, most of the Hollywood, even if it's a fictional character, it's based upon how New York City really operates. And it's those guys up there can sit there and lie all they want, but the rest of America doesn't have to buy it. And whenever he sits there and he says, because they said, hey, New York City's a sanctuary city, they let their governor put all those people during COVID into nursing homes and die, and they literally brought the general population that was diseased into the nursing homes, whereas the nursing homes, they were already sheltered from the disease. It wasn't coming in. All they had to do was put the proper precautions together, and would they kill off 40,000 elderly folks up there? 40,000. That literally is genocide. That is mass murder on the reason that the New York City mayor, Cuomo, all those people are out of not in jail right now for those reasons. I mean, they should have been strung up from One World Tower. They should have been strung up, and their bones should be rotting carcasses right now for all of the world to see. And where are we sitting at? Nothing's been done, and we just found a new event to talk about. We're probably going to have another concert up there. Beyonce will be up there. They'll do Fleet Week, and hey, everyone's feeling good. Let's support the troops and take their minds off of it. And then, bam, let's get right back to the illegal aliens coming in, beating people up on the subways, killing them, knocking grandma over with a can of soup that just got stolen. People squatting in houses. You're seeing that the Venezuelan gangs are finally here and in full force, and they're trying to squat and they're trying to take people's homes.
Yeah.
So bottom line is, Biden administration opened this up, and the Democrats as a whole are trying to make this, they're trying to make this stuff happen. And that's why Drag Queen Story Hour is another thing to talk about, because they're using that to distract you from the bad stuff. And so everything's always a new argument. Where's the new argument going to be?
I know. Yeah. It's like you wait for, and unfortunately right now, Walter, I think a lot of people that I talk to are waiting for the next 9/11.
Yeah. Oh no, so 9/11 was nothing. 9/11 was 4 airplanes, 3,000 people died. Remember, prior to 9/11, what did they say was the worst thing? Oh, Pearl Harbor. That's right. So nope, I really think that we are going to have jihad, and you're going to see where the police and military are overwhelmed because people don't know what to do. The elected officials that ask for the job, corrupted themselves into the job, and don't know how to perform the job are going to try and take over, do what they need to do. The people following the orders are not going to follow the laws and follow their oath. They're going to follow the direction you're given, like we've seen with the Border Patrol, and they're going to do what they're told. And it's going to be up to the common folk like yourself and myself to make sure that America is safe.
Don't you think, though, that this has been a precursor, the confusion, and for our law enforcement, for our, who've taken an oath to protect the communities, and the confusion behind Democrat-run city councils and how they direct a police department, how they can handle college protests, how they can handle people blocking the streets. It's utter confusion to make a police officer afraid for their lives, for their career. That they could have a civil lawsuit brought against them and lose everything. They put the fear into our law enforcement to make them lose their confidence in what they're doing.
And let me get a little personal with this for you, because I heard it several times. But prior to your son being killed by an illegal alien, he was a police officer.
Yes.
And didn't he go into the crappiest neighborhood on foot, knock on the doors, and make it safer in those parks for those kids to play in?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
So we need a few more Brandons, and you hit the nail on the head. That they're making these guys scared. Well, your son wasn't scared. At the same time, though, and that was 10 years ago. At the same 10 years plus ago. At the same time, though, you've got the folks from my generation of the military service and all that. Now we're living in watching the body cams of some of these police officers, and they're not being taught that it's your life or theirs, and it's one or the other. And that's why you saw the Uvalde school shooting. That's why you saw those police officers that were riding on the fear of Pete Arredondo, the chief, who could not make a decision. He was trying to listen to things. And I had cops from all over the state and from several different states in the nation call me that day. Sandra and I, that was her runoff election was happening at that day. And it was one of those things where we were going to be at some party watching stuff. We literally drove around most of the day until we ended up at Tim Wesley's house to figure out how his runoff was going to go. everybody and nobody could care about the the runoff elections in Texas. They were literally glued to Uvalde, which was global news, and we physically got to see what it looked like to not put yourself in front of a bullet for the child. That is a huge dig, and they wanted to point that at Governor Abbott. They wanted to point that at all these people. Bottom line is, you had a long-time sheriff's deputy that became a police chief of an ISD and said, I will stand there for your children. And when the time came, he stood behind the wall, and he literally said, hey, don't go, don't go, don't go. And we saw the video of the husband, who was the police officer outside, saying, my wife has been shot. And all of those guys talked him into leaving. I would have shot somebody before I walked in that door. And the bottom line is, those cops, whether they like it or not, for a child, their job is to trade their life for that child. There should have been police officers stacked on that door, entering that door, so that instead of him shooting at kids, he would have had to shoot at those cops until somebody finally hit him. And that's one of those things where, hey man, that's what you signed up for. And we're just not seeing that anymore. That right there is the perfect example of the most innocent and precious thing ever.
Yeah.
Needed a police officer, and they could not count on Pete Arredondo.
I know. Sad thing.
Yep.
And that was the runoff election that Sandra was going through, where she was up against what's his name? Henry Cuellar.
Well, so that's the runoff election. She was up against Cassie Garcia.
Oh, that's right.
Who happens to be the new wife of the Border Patrol chief, who is who now wears this. I mean, this poor guy gets to wear this invasion's on him. He is the chief of the Border Patrol. It got started under Raul Ortiz out of Del Rio, and as soon as Jason Owens was done in Del Rio, he was made the Border Patrol chief for the United States of America. And boy, we're talking invasion on steroids. So you can't, you can't rewrite this book. And to your point, that was the runoff election that also Henry Cuellar was in a runoff election against the socialist Jessica Cisneros. And where's Henry Cuellar right now? Oh, him and his wife I believe, are under indictment now.
Yeah. All the things. So Sandra Whitten, folks, for the people who are listening, Sandra Whitten was running for that congressional seat there in Texas to get Henry Cuellar out. And she was bringing up a lot of issues about his corruptness and things that he was doing. And the people there in Texas in that legislative district decided to keep going with him. And now, everything that Sandra was talking about and you were talking about and trying to bring to the voters' attention has come true.
Well, to the people's defense, the people that the girl that was put in, Cassie Garcia, had changed her name. She wasn't even married at the time, and was talking about, our children. She doesn't have any kids, all the kind of stuff. She didn't even speak Spanish, and yet now she's been made the president of the Hispanic Republicans of Texas. So at least pick somebody that can speak in Hispanic or in Spanish or Espanol or Tejano, as we like to say in Texas. Which is actually the people that were here. They were Texas Mexicans at the time, and we call those Tejanos. You'll find some Caucasians in there. I like to identify as a Tejano every now and then because I can cook and dance better than some of them. So hey, there we go. But no, at the end of the day, those people did exactly what they knew to do. They went with the abuser that they were safe. They felt safe with, instead of the one that was coming at them, that was being pushed by the GOP, which shows you at the time the failure of the GOP that they had. That chairman that we had, Matt Rinaldi, is still the chairman, and when he didn't get the Trump endorsement, now we all of a sudden we've got 5 people running, and the Texas GOP is in shambles right now, and it's just it's an embarrassing situation to see, where we need to have Donald Trump back in, and we still have all this infighting because people are they're still arguing over whether the carpet matches the drapes and crap like that. What color's the punch going to be? What flavor is this going to be? And it's like, no,
that's the way it is here in Arizona.
Yeah, we need to get people elected.
The Republicans are like so ridiculous with the crap that they hold on to, and they never see the big picture and never really understand what the word unity means.
Right. Well, and it's not just the word unity; it's self-sacrifice. I've got friends that are they're split because they're supporting people that absolutely did the wrong thing, broke the rules, and listen, we have to double down because we're going to look stupid if we go support somebody else. Hey, I'm the first to admit I was wrong. Let's get rolling. Let's go forward. I was a Ted Cruz supporter back in 2016. Donald Trump was a rude dude with a mean attitude, mean tweet, the whole bit. I've now been hunting with his son. I have gone to countless of those rallies, and the fun part is it's always, hey, you want to sit in the VIP seat? No, I'm out there. What am I doing? I'm out there doing the work that when I was a SREC, I was out there doing the work that you're supposed to do. Sign up new voters, sign up new supporters. I started out as a Ted Cruz guy, and whenever we got to that election on in November of 2016, I'll never forget. Franklin Graham came on a Facebook Live. I was going to bed. My sons were all in bed. And I said, "Hang on a second," and I grabbed the wife and kids and I said, "Hey, let's all. Franklin Graham's doing a prayer. Let's do a prayer." And there was the number was 3K on that little thing up in the corner, and by the time we got done, it was 3M.
Wow.
And I truly believe that it was a miracle of God that election got the election ended up how it ended up. It was not because remember they waited on Hillary Clinton to come out for 3.5, 4. I don't even think she even came out and addressed everybody. I think later on she put out a statement to those people that we're sitting there in awe. And then we saw 2017 as soon as the inauguration is happening, signs are dropping. People out there screaming and I was just like, holy crud, and if you didn't love Donald Trump before then you kicked it into high gear. And then you saw what was going on with the GOP, which had the House, the Senate, the White House. And we still couldn't get it. Yeah. We still couldn't get anything passed.
Yeah. So, the thing about the Democratic Party, because even with Hillary losing the race, it was behind the scenes, her screaming and yelling and having a meltdown. I mean, it came out, but they do all their meltdowns and their disagreements behind the scenes. The Republicans do it out in the open.
Oh yeah,
and that's the problem, because we need to stick together and vote together. If you're gonna run as a Republican candidate, then you need to vote the Republican conservative platform, whether it's federal or local. And if you have a disagreement with somebody, call them into a room, close the door, and have the disagreement. But we've got to come together, because the Democratic Party, I guarantee you, those people don't all agree on what the hell the Democratic Party and Joe Biden is doing. There's absolutely no way, if they had any brain, that they could agree with all this stuff.
Well, no, I physically had to watch it because I'm in a heavy Democrat area, and the Democrats love me because I'll sit there and talk to them. And it's like, there's some radical Democrats. Hey, I don't want to have nothing to do with those people. Yeah. But I have one or two that come around and they're like, hey, listen, so what do you think about, let's not talk about Donald Trump. Oh, okay. What do you think about such and such? And we get to talking about it. And what I found is I don't have to talk about Donald Trump about something whenever they want to discuss something. But then next thing I know, I'm seeing them 2 or 3 weeks later at a Tea Party meeting or something that's nonpartisan. And so they're feeling more comfortable. And if Republicans could embrace talking to the other side, we can pick the conservatives out and convert them as well. But they don't want to leave one abusive family so they could go get abused by another. And that's all we're doing.
Exactly.
So we're, here in Texas, we've got our, what do you call it? Our convention's coming up in a couple weeks. And that's why I'm pushing, you and Sheriff Lamb, Mark Lamb. I was a Kerry Lake supporter. But again, I can't vote for her. But then again, Mark Lamb has been very accessible. And then to look at what can and can't be done, he's highly electable. Your area that you're in, and y'all have got the weirdest legislative thing. You got 2 people running for 2 seats, and I'm just like, it doesn't register here, because here we have one Republican, one Democrat for one legislative for the district that represents it, not two people representing a legislative district, whether it's Republican, Democrat, 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 Republican, Republican. So it's the GOP has their primary, the Democrats have their primary. There we go. And you know what? I kind of wish we'd had a third party at some point that that could come forward, but we're here. We can't. You guys apparently have some independent stuff going on there, but at the same time, you know, you have to go with the party that brought you. And I'm watching your district, and I'm watching your. I call her Lorena Bobbitt because I would never want to use the word Austin. But then again, it's very fitting. Our Austin, Texas, we actually call it Moscow on the Colorado. So it's about the most CCP-driven city. That's where our state capital is. That's where all of the rhinos are. We have a good group of Republicans that are trying to make things happen. But when the bad group of Republicans and the Democrats are teaming up against you, you know, this is where things are happening. Our governor has stepped into the arena. He has put himself on fire several times for the Texas people, and I wasn't much of a fan for a couple of years prior. I was a big fan when he first got elected, and you know, there's a couple of years I said, "Hey, can we do better? Let's do better." The folks elected him, and then all of a sudden, he once he got past that election in 2022, he really, you know, he stepped up. We're building a wall. He's got our troops out there. He's got people, you know, they're saying, hey, you're going to, there is no remain in Mexico policy. There is a go back where you came from policy. And that's, you know, Mexico is letting these people come all the way through their country. So at the end of that day, you know what? You came in from there. It's your problem. You can keep your problem.
Yeah. Well, and there's so much crazy stuff going on behind the scenes. Did you see what country was it that they flew into? That flight from I can't remember what country, and then they stopped in Dubai and they picked up a guy who was on the terrorist watch list, and then they flew into this Central American country. You know, this is what's going on. And they've got planes from Africa. Now they're not requiring these people to have visas to come into Nicaragua. They can come from all over the world.
Well, wait a second. Forget all of that. Just the fact that Ron DeSantis is having to say, hey, we've had 350,000 people flown directly into Miami by the Biden administration.
Yeah.
We've had it happen in Houston, Texas. We've had it happen in Dallas, in San Antonio. I mean, and people don't realize these respite centers, all this stuff going on with these NGOs, these NGOs are getting grants from the local counties as well. So in 2021, I think it was, the Lena Hidalgo, she's the socialist Democrat judge of Harris County, Houston. They took a vote with the two other Democrats, Rodney Ellis and the former sheriff, Adrian Garcia, who's also a Democrat, against the two Republicans at the time. Now there's only one Republican because Jack Cagle, you know, couldn't get off of his butt and campaign. So we got stuck with Leslie Briones over there in Harris County. But they voted to give $150 million of local taxpayer property taxes to Catholic charities. And I'm like, holy crud, you know?
They are the worst stewards of the money given for this illegal invasion.
Right. Well, not just that, but I mean, you know, this tells you where people's faith in God is. These charities are not supposed to be working for the government. They're not supposed to be depending upon the government.
Right.
They're supposed to be saying, you know what, your 10%, this is what we're going to do with it. But people they're falling out of line with God. They're falling out of line with the government. And so what's happening? The government is robbing from Peter, and they're using it to pay Catholic charities. So you're going to give your money whether you like it or not.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then the Catholic Church tries to distance themselves from Catholic charities, but they let a second offering, a second donation basket go around during Mass for Catholic charities.
Right. And you know, sad note right there. Our speaker's race here in Texas is heated up to where they're trying to remove Dade Phelan, the speaker. He's been censured by the party. David Covey is running against him. And people didn't know that Dade Phelan was on the board for the Gulf Coast Catholic Charities. So, and that was our Republican speaker that was unanimously hired by all 150 members of the House, all 149 if he didn't get a vote for himself.
Well, and there's this particular nun who's down there in the Del Rio area. We saw her when we were all down there at Shelby Park. I've seen her at the airport herding these illegals through the special line where they don't have to go through the x-ray machines. They can walk through with open bottles of water and stuff. She's quite the character, and she is on the side of the streets during that demonstration down there at Shelby Park when Governor Abbott was meeting with all the governors. She's with all the protesters, open borders, because of course they're, she's probably not having to eat TV dinner. She's probably eating filet mignon every night because of the money that filters through these people, right?
Right. And one of them is Sister Pimenthal. She's the one who's friends with Nancy Pelosi. The one you're talking about, I forget her name, but she lives in Laredo. And so she's constantly there. We were there together. The brown shirts were out there with their little berets on because I got a couple of videos from behind the people. And you were there when I got to the shouting match with that soldier, that former airborne guy. And he's like, just get out of our town. I'm like, it's a big part. And I was like, hey, I don't support the governor taking over Shelby Park. I think I support. Let's just go ahead and build that fence on the river, be done with it, and catch them as they come across.
Here's the problem. Here's the problem that Sandra said her name is also Sister Rose something. But here's the problem. What has happened at Shelby Park is it's been proven that walls work and deterrents work, right? So how can
actually that's
it's not like the Texas National Guard is sitting there with loaded guns ready to kill anybody who comes across the Rio Grande. They've put the concertina wire, and it has stopped the invasion. So where in the hell would somebody like Mayorkas, who claims we have a secure border, we have the border is under operating control, why wouldn't you be for this?
Well, and here's the sad part about that. So the former Jason Owens, so the guy that would be what the former Jason Owens was, the Del Rio sector chief, he's the one who led the lawsuit about removing the wire, that kind of stuff. So you have federal agents that are suing the state of Texas for the Biden administration, but their name is on it because they're the ones in charge of that area. So that right there is a clear violation of their oath. In Texas, we actually have laws against that. But the flip side is this, though. The federal government is forcing those people to go through the river. We've actually lost we've actually lost some of our National Guard soldiers who went in to rescue these people.
Yeah.
We had a kid that died. His name was Bishop Evans. He was from up in the Arlington, Grand Prairie area. He was only 22 years old when he died. I believe he was 22. He may have been 21 or 20, but I think he was 22 years old when he died back in 2021. That's why I'm getting confused. And it was because he jumped off the boat. He went in after these people they were just trying to come over for a better life, and come find out that they had enough dope on themselves to be convicted for 50 years. So it wasn't bring us you're tired, you're poor, you're masses. He died for a couple of drug smugglers that were trying to fit in with the migrants, with the illegals that were coming over as a part of the Biden administration / Brian Nichols propaganda. And people don't know who Brian Nichols is. Google the guy. He works for the State Department. He's the one who's out there dumping money and making threats in Guatemala, Nicaragua, Honduras. You're seeing El Salvador. Nayib Bukele is a leftist, and yet he's come to the right, and he's like, I'm only taking care of my country. You invade his country. If you're a gangbanger in his country, what does he do? He puts you in jail. And those guys,
it's one of the safest countries in the world right now.
Yeah. No.
And
coming
here's what I say: if you're coming to the border and you're saying that you're from El Salvador and you're claiming asylum, the only reason you're at our border claiming asylum is because you're an MS-13 gang member. Because otherwise, you'd want to go back home. Right?
Well, hang on a second. Now, you can't blame everything on MS-13 because they also have. They've also got MS-6.5. So those are the teenagers.
Seriously?
I'm just teasing.
You nut.
So So yeah, no, they it's something else. And we have I was trying to memorize the name, but we have the Venezuelan gang that started back in 2007. Whenever they were allowed to take over the prisons, there was a ministry of prisons, and they put the gangbangers in charge. And so they've been getting their training all this time, and they've started selecting people, and that's what's been coming in. Look at what the arrest that just happened in Ohio, the kid that's on TikTok, and they're like, oh, he's using a Chinese app. You know what? TikTok may be a Chinese app, but if our federal government can't control TikTok, because we all know they're not going against Facebook, and what does Facebook do? They censor you. What does TikTok do? Well, there's a lot less censoring going on TikTok. Now, is the Chinese able to get your data? Well, of course they are, but you can get your data. They can get your data through Facebook anyway. The federal government's already got the ability to smack your phone. They're into your phone.
Well,
they already know what you're doing.
The government wants control of TikTok because they will have more control over American citizens.
That's exactly
and be
right.
able to gather more information, right?
Did you know that was what was buried into that Ukrainian bill?
No.
Yeah. They have 9 months to figure out which. Yeah, and remember, they're forcing a company, a foreign-owned company, to be sold to an American company. They're forcing that. Right. So we are physically living in fascism right now via the Republican-controlled Congress in conjunction with the Democrat underling by just a point or two. I mean, look at the fact that Chip Roy and Ilhan Omar voted exactly the same on this one. Yeah. The Andy Biggs voted. So he was able to get Ilhan Omar over to vote with him, and AOC over. I don't know if AOC voted, but I know Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib voted over. I know that Dan Crenshaw, I know that he voted for communism. So, lucky for him.
But the thing is, they do it under the guise of, we're trying to protect you from the CCP. But the real answer is, we want to take over what the CCP is doing to you.
Right. No, exactly. And where's the CCP right now? Well, people forget that the CCP that's who was providing Cuba with their guns since the 1960s. Since Lyndon Baines Johnson had JFK killed. Wait, did I say that out loud? I'm sorry, I'm in Texas. But since that happened, the CCP, China, has been in Cuba. Oh, wait a minute. We had the Vietnam War. That's right. So they were supporting the North Vietnamese. Who else was China supporting? They were taking over African ports. Wait, they own most of our municipal debt bonds. This is getting nuts.
Wait. They're providing all the chemicals to make fentanyl in Mexico.
Dadgummit, this is crazy that we want to fight the Chinese, but we're giving them everything.
They have Chinese nationals with Mexican passports coming over the border in the tens of thousands in Arizona.
Have you spoken Spanish to any of those people?
How many people can leave China like that? Honestly.
Well, have you spoken Spanish to any of the Chinese people?
No.
I'm telling you right now, they speak incredible. The dialect is just incredible. It's beautiful. I'm like, wow, the Chinese are making Spanish great again.
Unbelievable. I could not even believe it when I saw the picture down there in Yuma of the Border Patrol agent doing the facial recognition thing of this Chinese guy, but they're like, but he has a Mexican passport. And I'm like, okay, he's clearly Asian. I mean, but it's just like the Middle Eastern people who are coming over, these terrorists, that have Mexican or Central American type passports, and they speak fluent Spanish too, don't they?
Well, so, in all honesty, the PLO, Hamas, Hamas is a 90s thing. The PLO, Hamas, who else was there? The groups that when Lebanon had their split back in the 70s, these groups have been in Central America and Mexico for years. I actually had a lady I picked up that was out of, I didn't pick her up. I gave her aid while I waited on the sheriff to get there, and which they say is illegal. But I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to sit there and let somebody, die of thirst right in front of me while I'm waiting for 4 hours for a sheriff to get there, because I did call the Border Patrol, and the Border Patrol's answering machine came on and said, if you have a real emergency, please call 911. Funny how Border Patrol doesn't answer 911 calls, but your local taxpayer does. Yeah. So the key is her name was Fatima, And I actually put it on TikTok and I put it on Twitter to one of the U.S. senators, and I tagged his stuff, and he called. He's like, What's going on?" I said, "I literally was driving down the highway, and this lady flagged me down, and she's got 15 articles of clothing on, and sure enough, and I had to text the sheriff 2 counties over because he was closer than the county that I was in. You know how big these counties are on the border. People don't understand that, and they customarily came over out of a humanitarian thing, came over and got her. I'm like, yeah, your station over there was closed. I'm not going to say which border patrol station was closed because they were busy. And our border patrol stations, with the exception of Del Rio and in some cases the RGV, uh, our agents are really good. They're in a bad spot, and I know how the agents are down in your area. They're in a bad spot. They're
Yeah.
doing what they can, but whenever they get away from those political, the political sector chiefs and all that kind of stuff, all they want to do is be on their they want to be on horseback. You know, they're helping the right people, they're arresting the right people, their law enforcement's doing some good things. It's unfortunate what happened to the 75-year-old farmer down there. I think he's 76 or 77 now, who was just, had a bunch of illegal aliens coming across his property, and he fired a weapon and somebody got killed. You know what? Had that been in a foreign country and he was doing the same thing, I'm pretty sure they probably would have strung him up and gutted him before they killed him, because that's how they do it down there.
Well,
So
it was a mistrial, and now the prosecutors have said they're not going to bring him back up on charges, but he has gone bankrupt defending himself for defending his wife and property.
and remember, his wife is an invalid.
Yes.
It's not like, hey honey, go get the keys, get in the car. He physically would have to take whatever tubes out, prep her to get the heck out of Dodge, because she's pretty much in a nursing home situation, and we know that they probably can't afford the nursing home. Well, because the illegals are the ones getting all the money. So
Yeah.
there you
So
have it.
here she is, an invalid, and her husband's taken away from her and thrown in jail. And then he's had to, I don't know if they released him, prior to the trial and everything. I don't think they did.
Yeah, no, they did. I watched him on with Allie Bradley. I cannot believe I've been Kelly, Mr. Kelly something. I watched that through Allie Bradley. She's one of she lives in Texas now, but she's one of my favorite news reporters because she doesn't care who's president, who's not president. She
Right.
states the facts. The agents trust her. The police officers and sheriffs, they trust her, and I trust her. I mean, she's one of these people that just if you looked at what her career used to be, she was your line anchor woman, a line Line, not lying, but line anchor woman, and she was just a good looking blonde that whatever news story was being read to her, she was the one spitting it back out. Now, I think she works for News Nation, but now when she does I like her social media because she doesn't put a spin on it. She tells you what's happening and what she's seeing. You make you determine
You can find her
what she's
on
seeing.
you can find her on Instagram and Twitter. It's
Yep.
Allie, Ali, and then Bradley, Bradley. Yeah, I've watched a lot of her stuff, and you're right. She's non-biased. It's just straightforward news, and here's what's going on. And she's front lines in a lot of these issues that happen down there at the border too. So it's fresh news. It's
Right.
stuff that's happening in real time. Yeah.
Yep. She, I met her whenever we were having the big Ken Cuccinelli and those guys came down to Brackettville, and there was a big press conference going on. That's the first time I met Thad Cleveland. He was a former Border Patrol agent, became sheriff when his sheriff died, and he was able to return that back to his county. Very, very large county, very small population, and his whole thing was, I'm going to take a pay cut so I can give back, and I think that dude has worked more as a sheriff on the border than he did as a Border Patrol agent on the border.
Wow.
And he was involved in shootouts. He was out there in Nogales and the Yuma area, all those areas down there. He was involved in several shootouts down there in when he lived in Arizona for like 9-10 years, something like that. He's been just a great guy. Well, you met him, and he's a really good guy. He's similar to your Mark Lamb. I mean, Thad is what I call America's sheriff. I know David Clark, used to carry that name, but he ain't sheriff no more. So there's a new sheriff in town. You know how they say that. So it,
So let me ask you something. We kind of talked about this last night. Do you feel that the 287G program is beneficial for law enforcement and beneficial for the communities, keeping the community safe?
nah. I think at one time it was, but I think anything run by the federal government right now is corrupt until we get the corrupt people out of office. Because the orders are coming down, they're following the lines. I like what we've done with SB4 in Texas. It would be great if a law enforcement officer could punch up on his computer and see if someone's here illegally or not.
Right.
I guarantee you, Texas would have a deportation. They would have a drive-through line where basically you just drive along and they'll bump you out and you get on a conveyor belt and they'll put you out of the country that way, because of the amount of arrests that we have. And then of course, well, we can't be racist, so you don't ask them where they're from. Well, why not? I tell you what, if something happens with me, first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna shut my mouth. You figure out who I am.
Yeah, exactly.
TSA. I for the first time had my hands wiped down for whenever I got on an airplane to go spend time with my son. He's in the middle of graduating right now, and the first time ever I've had my hands were wiped down, and they said, "Well, we just want to check you for suspicious residue."
Yeah.
Actually, I fire my gun quite a lot, so I'm very surprised that did not happen. That they detected something. Luckily, I take a bath daily, so I take a shower daily. And those kind of things happen. But whenever I went through, I was leaving home, headed back. Take your shoes off, take your belt off, and I'm like, holy crap, I've lost weight. My pants are coming down. I'm trying to lose more weight, but how come that guy with the brown envelope over there ain't nothing happened with him? And he's got a water bottle in his hand.
Yep.
You can't tell me that's not nitroglycerin. And then when they get on the other side, they're able to fashion a spark arrestor of some sort and make some bad things happen.
I know, it's disgusting how American citizens are treated, but I had a long conversation with a gentleman from Florida about the 287G program. I'm supporting Jerry Sheridan for the new sheriff here in Maricopa County in Arizona. And he was in charge of the 287G program under Sheriff Joe Arpaio. So, he's going to bring it back. But this gentleman in Florida was kind of arguing with me saying, I'm so sick of these sheriffs saying we got to wait till Trump's back in office. And unfortunately, that is the truth, because the 287G program, folks, is where local law enforcement, when they pick up an illegal criminal, they're able to call ICE, and they have a jail cell set aside in their jails that the federal government helps, gives them some money for. And they're able to hold this illegal up to 48 hours till ICE can come and pick them up and deal with them on a federal level.
So in the state of Texas,
that off.
In the state of Texas, for state jail felonies and misdemeanors, things like that, where it's a jailable offense, the sheriff's department is reimbursed between $45 and $65 an hour. I forget which one. And the federal government, they supply over $85 per day for that person to be jailed there until they're picked up. I think I just proved your point right there, or proved my point anyway. We have to wait until we have a new administration. The 287G program is not going to work under this administration right now because it hasn't worked.
Right.
And they refuse to let it work. And what you're seeing literally is communism, period. And that's their goal.
And a lot of the new applications from some of the sheriff's offices are being slow rolled because Mayorkas doesn't want this program to succeed.
Nah, they're not being slow rolled. They're being stopped.
Yes.
Yeah, there's no slow roll to it. It's, hey, just set it over that stack over there. We'll get to it when we feel like it. That ain't a slow roll. That's a parking lot.
Right. Yeah. No. 100%. Well, we've come to the end of our hour. Do you believe an hour is already over?
Dadgummit. And
I miss you and Sandra so much. But thank you so much for coming on today. I always enjoy having you on, and I know my viewers always enjoy you and your crazy sense of humor, and we like to hear about Texas and what the hell's going on over there.
Well, it's fixing to get really rambunctious over here.
Yes. All across the nation, man. I hope you have a great rest of your week and a great weekend.
I shall. You be
Thank
good,
you.
and we'll holler at you here soon.
All right. Thanks.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Join me tomorrow. I have Ed Steele, who's going to be, he is with he's running for Mesa School Board. So join me tomorrow. We got lots to talk about with him. Thanks for coming on today and watching us.